Well, hello there. This is Virtual Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Welcome to another episode of Quick Wins. And there is no shorter quick win than the Fool's Mate. As a reminder, let's go have a look. So we're playing from the perspective of black. White is the side that is going to get mated. And the Fool's Mate begins with white playing the rather unusual f3. Now the thing with the Fool's Mate is that it almost never shows up in real games, but the tactical idea behind it does. The thing about the Fool's Mate is that it all hinges along this dark square diagonal to the king. So that's the f2, g3, h4 squares. One of the unique elements about that diagonal is that at the beginning of the game, these squares are defended only by the king side pawns. So that's the f pawn, the g pawn, and potentially the h pawn. No pieces, particularly on the king side, defends these squares, and neither can those pieces block those squares at the beginning with a single move in any case. So by pushing the f pawn forward, it weakens the f2 pawn. Pawns can only move forward. Every time they move forward, they leave something behind. With black, we play a very standard e pawn, and here, second move, they push forward their g pawn, and in doing so, these three squares, h4, g3, and f2 are now completely exposed. Diagonal is exposed, and of course, queen h4 check and its mate. So that is the Fool's Mate. Now, in real games, the same tactical ideas can show up. So I dub these the Fool-ish mates. Well, let's go take a look. I'm going to show you 3 games, each one with increasing levels of abstraction. So moving more and more towards like a normal game. Now, the first 2 games I played as an unrated 10-minute rapid. So myself against random noob. So let's go take a look. So they play initially very interesting opening, the Van Geet opening. Now I've highlighted these 3 squares, that diagonal. Green means that they're defended. Okay, I now push my e pawn, e5, and now white does an unusual move, a knight to the edge of the board. I was wondering, what are they doing here? Push a second pawn forward, take the full center if you're allowed to, simple opening principles, and now their logic comes to bear. Now they push f4. So I think what they were trying to do was to pressure. I think they were thinking captures, and then the knight comes to a nice place. That is a complete blunder because these squares are now very, very much, well, that weakens this square. To what I want to do is to remove their g pawn. So the bishop captures. So these these 2 squares are still defended, but they cannot take my bishop. However, it's very, very difficult to not do that. They capture, and now the whole thing is open. Queen, mate, very, very similar position to the Fool's Mate, Fool-ish mate. Second game, also against a random noob, 10-minute unrated game of rapid. And in this game, we start with, opponent starts with queen's pawn opening. Again, these squares are highlighted so you can see what's happening. England gambit, they accept. Now I bring out my knight, and here they push the f pawn. Not the most accurate move, best for them to develop their knight. However, that's fine. Bishop out with a view of that weak f square. They develop the knight. Now the knight now defends the h4 square as well. That's fine. I decide to push my d pawn. See what they're going to do. They leave the tension. That's fine. Bishop now, because if I remove that knight, then this square will no longer be defended. And here, white makes a blunder. They decide to try to kick my bishop, which is a mistake. Blunder, because in doing so, the h pawn no longer defends the g3 square. Knight still defends h4, but whack, now it doesn't anymore. So it doesn't matter what they do. You can see The squares are exposed. Queen h4 check. Now in this position, black does have a few more sort of places to go because they've got things a bit open, but you can see it's a mate in 8. I'm not going to show you the full line to checkmate. That's in the article linked to this video. Have a look in the description. Here, they forced to move the king, only legal square. Queen captures pawn with check, king back, and here the best move is queen back here, and there's a relatively long sequence where the king is forced to move into the center of the board onto my side of the board, and I give a mate, actually mate with my g-pawn, but I decided to do something a little bit simpler. Bishop to e3, blocking this square. Now white does have the opportunity to just take, and that's actually the best move, and actually we're back to equality, but they don't do that. They decide to attack both pieces, but now queen to either of these positions, the fool's mate type position, and it's mate. Good game, GG. Another foolish mate. Our last game is from one of my long-term subscribers, Andy Deco. This was a game of 5 minutes blitz. Another game of the England Gambit. So they play d4, England Gambit e5, but they decline the gambit into the reverse French. Here, push the e-pawn forward. Okay, so everything here fairly normal. Nothing's happened here, so this looks like kind of a normal game. You can see very equal at the moment. Knight, knight, aha. That looks like a natural looking move. It's not terrible, but it weakens the f2 square. And here, bishop bolstering that square. And you can sort of imagine white thinking, all right, what I'm going to do, pile on more pressure. How about we attack the bishop? Bang, with g4 attacking the bishop. It's a serious mistake because this whole diagonal is now exposed. No defenders. And so here we can very safely, knight captures the g4 pawn. It's a brilliant move, a brilliant sacrifice, because if they take, blunder, queen to h4, not quite checkmate, but it's looking absolutely terrible, and white in fact opted to resign in this position. Good game and GG.